All right, we are live. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining today. I'm Graham. This is Build Crew Live. Build Crew is a community of people that are building with agentic coding tools. You can join anytime, and it's a great place to just connect and meet up with other people. We're in this world of AI builders, and we're all pretty lonely, so it's a good place to hang out and share some information. Okay, I'm lonely. Fine. So
that's what
today
the AI is for, right?
yeah, exactly. That's why I have it call me bro. So I've got Camden, Thorsten, and Mike joining us today. Mike is a member of the community. Camden and Thorsten are from the AMP team. Hello, everybody. How's it going?
Hello, Graham.
Hey.
Nice to be here.
It's great to have you all. Thank you so much. I do have one little silly icebreaker question for you all, and it's something that I feel like this space is moving so fast that I'm constantly changing my mind about how stuff goes. So just like a quick round robin for everybody, which is like one thing you've changed your mind about this week.
Ooh.
It's only Tuesday. It's only Tuesday.
I know.
Yeah.
It could be since last Tuesday. It could be since last Tuesday.
Okay. Let me think.
Mike, you said you had one?
Yeah, I've got one. I've was committed to in building code fixture testing. Like if I'm testing against API, you need to have a JSON fixture. No more. Straight live testing against the API works far better, and it's used this technique. And with these tools, it's faster and better for everything.
Wait,
So,
you mean in
just
CI or local development or what?
local development in the build
Yeah.
phase? Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed Anthropic recently I've been adding a bunch of special strings so that you can like reproduce some of the weird edge case behavior. Like I assume it's exactly for this type of reason, like so you can be using the live API for your dev testing, and I love it.
Insert F it will do it live meme. I love it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Nice.
That's cool.
Camden, you gotta change your mind thing.
Yeah. I feel like this is one that I've changed my mind on multiple times, but like talking to AMP is mine. Like using my voice to tell it what to do. And like I don't know, it's one of those things where every time I do it, I'm like, oh wow, I'm prompting much better. I'm actually like giving it the information it needs. But then I'm just so self-conscious about it that it goes away. And this week it came back again.
Wow. Yeah, I use it too.
I've never changed my mind about that. It's the second I got Super Whisper, it's how I do almost everything. But I think I'm a bit of a brute. Thorsten, what about you? You have anything?
Slightly. I think I even said this last week live on the air, that I'm not a big heavy user of PRD, spec-driven, whatever you want to call it, workflows. And so yesterday, I tried to do this. I think I have like 4 or 5 threads from yesterday where I was like, analyze this piece of code for me and write a spec for this. Like just how this works, use the Oracle, blah, 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 and put it all in one text file. And then I would reference it in other conversations. And it's not that I changed my workflow to go to this build a full stack feature, with this PRD, but having a spec in the repo that you can point the agent at and say, like, this is a lot of context that you can, absorb and then build something else is handy. And Camden will also maybe see this. I even committed them to the repo today. I don't know. But I'm playing around with this. So I'm cool. Haven't changed my mind yet, but I'm changing in the process of changing my mind.
In the midst. I love it.
There's a question. Wait a second. Tomasz, our ex-colleague and a good friend of mine, live from Munich. How does Super Whisper compare to Aqua? I don't know what Aqua is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what
Aqua. It's another voice. It's another voice recorder like Super Whisper. I used Aqua a little bit and then went back to Super Whisper. But I downloaded one of the biggest models that Super Whisper allows you to download. And then I use that locally. And that was the game changer with Super Whisper for me. It's gotten very accurate. Yeah, it's not so much speed. I realized that I didn't care how long it took to transcribe. That was okay, as long as it was accurate. Because there were artifacts and things that would get inserted at the end of the transcription at times that I had to start over. And but Super Whisper, don't have much experience with Aqua.
Yeah, I find myself with other like the built-in Apple transcription stuff is like it's so much worse than Super Whisper. And so I find myself just trusting it, and then it does me wrong so many times. Like I
Did you dirty?
I mean, yeah, it really. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I don't want to derail this, but since we're here, I also used Super Whisper yesterday a lot, and I have a question for all three of you and Tomasz and everybody else, which is, do you use those custom modes? You can, in the settings,
No.
you can.
I'm not a
Yeah.
settings guy, but I've
Yeah.
heard that they're great. Like we talked about
Yeah.
this last week, that like you can have a custom mode where you can have it like compiled.
Yeah, with a
JSON,
different
right?
prompt or something to summarize it or to clean it up or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to have like a Super Whisper episode. Maybe just yet another podcast, right, where we talk
This
about
could
Super
be
Whisper.
it,
Yeah,
but,
Super Whisper optimization weekly.
Yeah.
Also
My
from-
thing on stuff like that is it's cognitive overhead. I don't want to think. I just want to hit my hotkey.
Yeah.
I want to talk, and then it needs to, just do its thing. That's too much. I don't want to think about the flow because it's disruptive.
Yeah, he does.
It's a weird.
Good to know, Tomasz.
Nope.
It's a weird cut to give up here. Yeah, Richard saying using Handy yesterday for speech to text, free OSS. I honestly don't. I know this is like a privilege thing, but I don't really care about if a product is free or not. Like, because then like I feel like I have to extol its virtues. Like I'd rather just pay and
Yeah.
market it anyway. I guess, but yeah, cool. These are I love hitting you all with fun questions you weren't expecting. So this week, basically the point of this show is I want to get, you all are very good at agentic coding. I've gotten to learn that by seeing you up close. And so I want to extract some of that information and help everybody else see it a little bit. I am not as good at agentic coding, so that's why I talk. And so let's go ahead and get started with Thorsten. Thorsten, you've been playing around with stuff. You showed me a photo of you staring off into the abyss. So maybe you want to share what your tip for this week that everybody can try out.
Okay, well, disclaimer, it's not a tip, it's more like something I'm playing around with or discovering right now. It might turn into a tip, maybe it turns into a here's something you shouldn't do, but I think it's pretty interesting. So if our production team can throw up there you go. So the context for this is that AMP itself capitalizes our name, which is not what we want it to do, but funnily enough, it does. So the context is I'm using our newly released SDK, which came out yesterday, and I obviously had access to it before. And you can use this to build or programmatically use AMP. And I've been playing around with an idea of mine that is, I want to build an agent that's, the interface to the agent is just a single website into which I can throw a message, and it has access to custom tools. And then I only see what it did. So sorry, to take 2 steps further back, the thing I'm trying to build is I sell like little ebooks on the side, and sometimes I have to create a coupon code and I have to go to Lemon Squeezy and create blah, blah, blah. So I first had AMP create a little create coupon.js script that talks to the API and creates a coupon. So what I wanted to do now is I want AMP to be able to use this JavaScript script. And AMP has the ability to use toolboxes, which are what Dario built. Dario is also on the AMP team. They're the, let's do something controversial. You can call this like the more Unixy version of MCP, maybe. I don't know. But basically, you can say, AMP, here's a bunch of scripts in a folder, in a toolbox, and each tool in there follows this, in quotes, protocol. If you call it with the env describe, you get back a description of the tool. If you call it with the env set to execute, it executes it. And then you can use this in AMP, and AMP finds these. So what I had AMP do is I first have it read the manual so it knows what toolboxes are. And I specifically said, like, read this section. So it opens this website. And then under the hood, I don't know if most of you know this, under the hood, instead of giving you the whole thing in the context window, if you ask for a specific thing, AMP will summarize or extract the relevant information from the website as Markdown, which is what I did here. And then I had it wrap my generic script in a toolbox script, which looks like this with like the describe and execute, where it, now has a description of how to use the tool. And then I had it tested even, and it works. It does this. And then I could use it in my agent. And then in the web interface, I was like, hey, can you create coupons? And it says, yes, I can. I have this tool here. I think it's then called TB _ create coupon or something. And then it can create coupons. And again, like I'm playing around with this, but the nice thing is I get to keep my script. Like it's just a plain JavaScript script that I can execute with Node and whatnot or Bun. There's nothing in that script about AMP or agent or anything else. And then I just have this really thin, what is this? Like 47 lines, right? A really thin script that just provides like a prompt for the agent. And it executes it with Bun even and returns the result. And I don't know. Now I have an agent that can programmatically talk to anything else. And I thought, I don't know, this was pretty neat. It's all committed. It's all in the repo. It's all plain code. It's no, I don't know, magic server, long running process, something.
It feels like I am such a fan of like stores, like a little script store, not where like you actually sell this, but just like well, people can grab, even if it was just like script awesome repo where you can grab other things that people are using. But like, I would love to be able to just, because I don't need to go redo this. I should be able to just, and obviously we're in the same team, so I can go grab this from your thread.
Even from this thread even.
Yeah.
But it's nice. It's nice because you can just commit it and it's in there and it's, I don't know. Let's see how it goes, but I'm excited about, just having this in the repo as small plain text scripts. And
I think it's important for the community to see examples like this, right? I use AMP a lot. I saw the SDK come out. It's on my list, but this application like inspires me to apply this to different things that I'm doing, right? And I think that's one of the cool things about AMP. You can see the threads. You can see how other people have used it. I've thrown a lot of threads and scripts like this up in a GitHub gist. That's sort of my go-to for sharing little snippets of code. And again, it's about like inciting and sparking those ideas. And this is really cool.
Yeah, we do have like some examples of stuff that we build, code review agent and whatnot, and we do have examples of these are more like like how do you build something with this examples. But I get the point.
I've been really loving toolboxes recently. Just like, I don't know about you guys, but MCP just always feels like way too heavyweight for me to deal with for building a little one-off script. Like, I don't know. I love that toolboxes are just like a tiny little script.
I hated MCP from the moment it was launched. I hated it. I still hate
so
it.
overwrought.
Like I understand it's the standard. Props to the team that built it. All respect. Terrible for the internet. Like, I'm sorry. That opinion has never changed. It solves a problem. It doesn't do it well. It needs to iterate and get better. So hopefully something like Toolboxes will catch on.
At the start of the year, when they came out, was it February or something? Or January? I don't know. I used, this was pre-agent stuff. I used, I think, Claude threw the docs in and said, like, write me a little tail scale MCP. And it did it in one shot and in Python. And it was cool. And I was impressed. Like, oh, this is how I get more context into any LLM conversation. But then I think you run into the practical issue of, it's a long running process, which is, everybody's nodding. Like, it's never that great. And then it's also, you have like, you want to ship it to somewhere, and then you have like the NPX, and I mean, UVX
so
is
insecure.
all like great, that. But it's also like, this is not on the path, and then this is the wrong version of this, and the dependencies. And I don't know.
Then we went through tool explosion, right? How many agent threads or how many examples did you see that threw 100 tool definitions into the context, right? There was a moment. That moment's gone, thankfully.
It's gone.
It's gone. It's about terse, concise direction to the agent now. thankfully.
Yeah, and this reminds me, you know, like with I think what was it, GitHub? They had like 100 something tools at the start, right, in the MCP server, and then the question was always, oh, when does it use this or it doesn't use this tool? And obviously it's not deterministic, but just to, I guess, toot our own horn here, I think with toolboxes another neat thing is if you use the CLI, if you change directories, you pick up the toolbox in that, you know, or you can change the env depending on where you are using dir-env. So you can contextual tools depending on if you're in the client directory or in the backend directory or whatever. So that's also neat.
It's powerful.
All right, so new protocol, MCP2, minimum context protocol.
I could get on board with that. That's pretty good. You should go create the Twitter right now, Graham.
Yeah.
First the UML diagram, like the interaction diagram, then we can talk.
Minimal context protocol. I like it.
I think in memes. I don't have I don't have
it's good. It's
fully
good.
formed thoughts.
On that thread though, there's this, I haven't had a chance to play with this either, right? Add it to all the list because we're all drinking from the fire hose. In the Elixir world, there's a new idea forming because Elixir and the Beam runtime has really good support for Lua, is using and exposing a single Lua tool. And the direction to the agent is to write the Lua script right into that tool for all the actions that you want to perform. And you can chain those actions and it ends up being this kind of interesting one. And again, there's some fuzziness here, but it's an exploratory area because Lua acts a little bit as a sandbox, right? Not a total sandbox, a little bit as a sandbox. You can chain the calls. So if you need to write to 3 files, it's one Lua call that's chained as seen as one tool call from the agent, but Lua does the work of writing to all 3 files in parallel. So there's some interesting ideas there that are emerging as we're getting into this, not what I can do, but how can I do it efficiently phase. That, right? I mean, how fast has this happened since February to now? It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, I know.
So you're saying you can use Lua scripts to introspect the Beam runtime?
Not introspect. It's a execution engine. So the Beam has several escape hatches is the best way to think about it. Yeah. And there's Elixir packages that make using and accessing those escape hatches really easy. The execution can happen in Lua, it can happen in Elixir. There's a bunch of ways, but there's some cool gists. I've seen people tossing ideas around, not baked, right? But this is the cutting edge that if it works, right, efficient, really, is a place to go with this stuff, to be able to just make your context all that more potent.
Nice.
I spent my whole Friday building this exact same thing in AMP.
Look at this.
Yeah, no, just like, I mean, I've loved this idea of basically like the LLM just like essentially running in a REPL where it can persist state between calls, it can like chain tool calls together, it can process a list of files in a loop rather than having to remember that it has to do each of these files. I really love this. And like I guess the things that I'm constantly running into though is just like support for serializability of VM state is rough, and I really want to be able to resume threads. But I think this is kind of the next generation of where agents are going, is writing code directly rather than calling very constrained tools.
Wait, so to explain this to the audience, not for me, obviously, I get it, but just to be clear, what you're saying is usually an agent has a bunch of tools like list files, read file, create file, run terminal command, right? And they can invoke it, and then if you have the transcript of the conversation, you see all of those tool calls. But what you're saying is it only has access to one tool, which is run JavaScript, run Lua, whatever. Yep. And then each invocation goes in the same runtime, right? Like in the same VM or something. So if it says run Lua and what's the Lua syntax for defining variable? A equals 1, whatever. And then in the next call, it says like print A, and then it gets a result equals 1, is 1 or something, right? And you're saying the serialization problem is if you resume the application, you also have to resume the virtual machine state, right? So it can pick up where it left off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and actually,
I
Lua
hope the
has
audience
Yeah,
got this.
ways to
I
do
totally
that.
get this. This is like I'm like right there, 100%. No, but it does remind me of is that like I will die on this hill that agents MD aren't good enough, and I want my agent to, I want to basically have my agent be a coworker that persists its memory of me through sessions, cross repos. Like I just want to be able to open up my computer and be like, all right, Amp, we're gonna pull up this project now, and we got to, I really want it to act like that. And so it's just a higher level of cognition that I'm waiting for, right? So I can be like, wait, what was that thing we were working on, and blah 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 blah, and it can pull that up. So if you guys could just snap that up, that'd be great.
We'll get right on it. Yeah,
Yeah.
just
Let's
go code,
Please.
vibe code this weekend.
I feel like this is a really interesting topic. Yeah. Memory, like, okay, so like, but I refer to this as memory, right? And like, I feel like this is one that we've tried, not we, like the AMP team specifically, but like the industry has tried like 4 different times this year, and it's failed each time. And like, I can't decide if this is like a fundamentally problematic thing, or if we just haven't figured out the right incantation to make this feel natural and not like remember things that you don't care about. And like, I don't know, there's something about the stateless part of agents that make it much easier to reason about, and I think memory kind of throws that away, which I don't know.
Yeah, I think I don't know, I'm talking out of my something here, but like I think it's an issue with same with like code execution, where it's when you want these agents to use these tools, you have to train them on them, and you have to train them like, oh, in this specific case, it would be good to use the ls tool or to use the create file tool or whatever it is. And I think based on the data that I think you can gather, this is easier than, oh, in this case, you should remember this fact because in this other conversation a week later, this will be the important thing, right? And like, I don't think it's a technical limitation in the sense, like you said, like we've had these memory tools for a while now, at least since February with MCP memory tools, whatever, but they never really work and they always remember the wrong stuff. And then I'm like, if you had to ask, like, if you were to ask me, like, what do you want it to remember? It's really hard to put into words. Like, this is noise, and this is actually something you should remember.
Totally. Yep. Well,
Right.
still not my problem. I would just want it to be solved. So, but, Camden, you have lots of good thoughts, but did you have a sort of coding tip for this week? We can jump in on and check out.
Yeah. Okay. So like it's kind of related to the stuff that we were talking about earlier. Basically, just like using code to write code, and like encouraging the agent to write little scripts that do broad tasks across your code base. And like, this is something that I think previous generations of models have been okay at, but like the most recent models like GPT-5 and Sonnet 4.5 like are actually really, really good at writing these little one-off scripts to solve tasks for you. So actually, if you can share my screen, I've got an example of this that just like kind of blew me away when I was just like dinking around on some side project in AMP. And like you can see here, like actually, there we go. It built this bash command based on like not me prompting for it, just I asked it to go debug something, and it created a logs directory, wrote those logs to that directory, cleared it out in between every check, set my settings to write to those logs, that logs directory, figured out that it needs to use node instead of bun for this thing, pointed to the temporary settings file it created.
The new settings file.
Yeah. Figured out that AMP execute exists, so it can run AMP in a script, and then listed the directory, counted what's in there, and actually this is a bad example. I did this a couple times.
There did it, right? One up. There was one where it actually.
Oh yeah, here we go.
There you go. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
grepped through
Yeah.
them to find what it was looking for. And like, I know, right? This I guess this general concept of just kind of giving AMP free reign to modify your code in order to debug it, and like building scripts that automate that is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
And
But
this is what encouraged me to like
But
try the Python
that's-
REPL thing or the Lua REPL
Yeah.
thing.
I do this quite a bit.
But
Yeah.
that's agent plus, right? Like I think that's the beauty of agents, right? Where they can use these tools and commands versus just one shots the whole app or
Yeah.
whatever, but they can use this type
Well,
of
and I mean,
stuff.
I think this is something that we've really struggled with when model testing, right? 'Cause a lot of models are good at one-shotting things, but not great at this kind of
Yeah.
iterative self-correction. But this is the kind of thing that I really love to see when I'm testing out models.
One of my first packages was a compile time, or there was a special logging utility in Elixir that I would insert all these extra logs into my code that at compile time, it would compile it out, but it would produce logs for, at the time, Claude 3.5 to see what was going on to create some of this loop. Super effective, completely useless now, but it, anything that you can do to ultimately provide or give the agent extra input in the form of logging, in the form of exit variables to get that loop going, and then just let it run. That is the path to success that I've seen with these coding agents.
That's one thing from the AMP or the OpenAI presentation yesterday, when they I think it's Romain was talking about their SDK, that he's had Codex running for 7 hours on something, which is like insane. I mean, who knows what exactly was happening there, but that just felt to me like
exactly.
Yeah, I've had it running for 7 hours too. It just needed me to install an npm thing.
npm dev waiting for it.
Oh, that's great. No, I think it's interesting. There was a question if the Oracle wants to bring it up and speak about it online, but there's a great question from Tomas there about your experience with background or cloud agents. And I don't know how much we want to talk about this, but I think that to me feels like the next thing that is really going to turbocharge a lot of this loops that we're talking about, right? Because you can only, how many people want to do it themselves? No, people just want to one-click these things and let them run. So have you guys played with these at all?
Yeah.
I mean, not revealing anything, but we're working on something and we're using it internally. And I think it would be weird to say, oh, this is the best thing ever. Like, but what I think it's like, it's so strange in that you can now walk and on your phone send off stuff and have it be researched and have a patch or first draft or whatever it is. And then you realize like how differently you approach stuff, because now you have these drafts to go through and you have to actually make sure that they work, because it's not like you actually send somebody off and they have high agency and merge the stuff and ship it to production and watch it and whatnot. So we do have some experience on it. We're working on it. My biggest, I don't know, I want to hear what you guys think, but my biggest question is, like, how do you change the way you work with this? And to quote Quinn, our CEO, what he's been saying is the mental image he has with background agents is that, like the chess pro that plays like 10 people at the same time in the park and moves from the one board to the other. You're not trying to play two at the same time, but you switch over and you focus on one of them, but you can spawn off a lot of matches. And I'm wondering how do you guys?
I think that question of how you're going to use them is a big thing for me. I know that the founder of Gumroad when I talked to him about using AMP, he was like, when can I use it from Slack? That was like his very first question. He's like, I don't code. I haven't opened an IDE in months. I just code from Slack now. And when I interviewed at AMP, that was the first question I had for Byung was like, oh, these are cool. So can I code from Slack? And he was like, yeah, I mean, eventually, sure. So I think that almost feels like actually not a big enough leap. I was sort of, while you were talking, realizing like if you had your sort of, if Siri wasn't awful and you could interface with Slack verbally, you could literally be like on a run and be like, okay, kick this off, now do this, and blah blah blah. And it's like, wait a second, if going on a walk is the best way to figure something out, what if you could go on a walk and still be coding? Like get that exercise energy up and then actually build something. So and then just one other thing is that, Thorsten, we've got to get you some more of that American showmanship bravado. This like, well, I don't want to, it would be weird to say this. No, you've got to just unequivocally like, this is the best. It's the best it's ever been. No.
Hey, my humility self. That's what people buy.
All right. So it's calculated. I see.
Honest guy. My
please.
All right. So I have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah. There you go. I knew it.
The fundamental framing with cloud agents versus CLI agents is it's a completely different tool. We think it's AMP in the cloud versus AMP in the CLI. No, they're apples and oranges. I integrate and interact with AMP in the CLI like I would pair program with someone. I'm engaged. I'm focused. And I have found using the work tree tools with other agents, if I go more than 2 work trees, try to do parallel, maybe I'm doing a PR over here for some small issue, I inevitably mess something up. So I go back to it's one thread because I'm pair programming, right? Anything in the cloud, I have to approach it differently. I have to think through what I want to get out at the end versus if I'm in the CLI, I can go on a journey of discovery, right? I can figure things out. I can learn along the way. Background agents, no, I'm making the request and I have a mental image of what I want to get out at the end. The other thing is that I think the current iteration of background agents, Jules, Codex, there are others, they're nowhere close to where background agents are going because they're single threaded, right? They're very heavy. So they spin up a full Docker container behind the scenes. You have to think in servers. And again, as a software engineer, I don't think that way when I'm in a coding session. I think they'll be better for what I call like maybe the scripts or maybe some research type use cases. It's less complicated work. A lot of the work that I do, oh man, I have to have my hand on the wheel with this agent. It can go off the rails very easily. I constantly introduce scripts, as Camden was talking about, that help it correct itself. I'm running tests all the time. It's very low level. I would never trust a background agent to be able to do that because my expertise is too far away from what that background agent is doing. That said, I think we will quickly evolve into this place where it's not just one background agent. So I think every background agent right now is trivial. It's an agent running in a Docker container that's run by a temporal work queue, right? If you don't know what that is, go take a look. Temporal just manages this stuff in the cloud. Stuff's been around for a while. It's not magic. That's what OpenAI uses. We're going to get to the place where you'll interact as the human with one agent. Behind the scenes, there'll be 100 agents. That's when it gets interesting. We're still probably 18 to 24 months away from that. It's going to be very expensive, but that's where it's going. And then each of those 24, 50, 100 cloud agents will help self-correct. You'll still have to bring kind of your mental model of where that work is going, but you'll be able to tackle more complicated tasks. And so the humans will have to learn how to delegate, how to package work. We're all going to become project managers, which is great. I look forward to that future, but it will change. And I think that's the thing that nobody's talking about yet.
Will we have to learn how to do that, or will
I-
they be a bunch of specialized agents? Like, will there be?
We'll have to learn. Agents can't bring the taste. Humans uniquely bring the taste of what qualifies as good code versus bad code from the human aesthetic, because the human's the judge. LLMs can judge themselves with objective measurements, but LLMs can't tell. They can create art. They can't tell you what art is good. That's the difference.
I want to change my answer to what Mike said.
That's great.
You can have it, Thorsten.
Yeah, but this was I think that's what I wanted to say. Like, the way of working with these things is different, and I said this today to somebody else. They asked me, what do you think about like the linear, and you tag an agent in a ticket and then it goes off, and I'm like, that feels to me like you're having self-driving cars by putting a robot behind a steering wheel. Like, that's why still have the steering wheel? Like, make the robot the car, and like, why create a ticket that looks like it was made for human, then attach an agent to it? And I think we're just seeing the start of this.
We're still in the horseless carriage, right? Age.
Yeah. Maybe
Camden, what are your? Can you one up?
No,
he's our guest.
I don't know. The thing that always stands out to me with background agents is like, I think of kind of the human in this relationship as like one of the tools for the agent. And I think we underestimate like how powerful of a tool that is. And being able to provide that feedback loop to the agent is really, really important still for keeping it on track. And that's one that, like, I don't know, even if you try and automate it with hundreds of agents, you still need something that's providing that feedback loop. So if you can get agents to like fight against themselves to come to the best solution, great. I don't know. One thing that I've been trying to think about is like, okay, so like security has like the Swiss cheese model, right? You've got a bunch of layers of cheese where the holes overlap, and so there's no holes through the whole thing. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I kind of want something like this for agents, where if you have like this fleet of 100 agents, they each have their own gaps in knowledge or their own perspectives on it. So if you layer them together and build something so that they can kind of self-correct and cover each other's knowledge gaps, then I think that can potentially be an interesting model for kind of building this like self-correcting loop with tons of different agents. We talked about this a little bit with like kind of the idea of model alloys, right? And like what we do right now with like the Oracle, where you're getting a different perspective, and like you can't decide what's right. But sometimes if you poke the agent from a different point of view, like it can kind of see like, oh no, I was wrong here. Like I should consider this way. So part of me wonders if this fleet is actually going to be different models, or like very different perspective or tuned agents, things like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
So we start with my dumb answer, then Mike knocked it out of the park, and then Camden, I think you kind of +1 it with like the tool is actually the human, which is like a nice. That was also smart. Now I want to take us back to a level down, and that is so we started with in Slack, right? And what Mike said made me think of this, that we do have internally a version of Slack of AMP that runs in Slack, and funnily enough, like you tag AMP in a thread and you can say, we had a really great example where somebody was talking about like, where in the AMP code base do we calculate the prices and whatnot? And somebody, I think it was Vincent, was like, hey AMP, where do we set the prices in the code base? And it came back with the perfect answer. But the point is, this was in Slack, so it was async, and you didn't wait for it. You got the Slack notification 2 minutes later, whenever it was finished, right? And the environment of Slack made the whole, let's just kick this off and wait for its answer. This was built in the environment. Like the expectations were set from the start. And I think that's kind of, I don't know. I think that's kind of what you were getting at, Mike, with like, yeah, the way to work with this and the expectations have to be
Completely
completely different than the pair the
I think
pairing.
we heard this really funny thing that humans go from miracle to entitlement in about 7 days. And so what this means for this is like background agents will see them as like a miracle, and then we'll be excited that, and we'll be okay with it being async, and then we'll be entitled to it being faster and faster within about 7 days from them coming out.
Yeah.
I want to ask the chat. So we've had some really great questions so far, but like please jump in with more questions here. What you all are thinking, how you're using background agents. I think that's going to be it's interesting for me to hear about. One thing I'll challenge you on, Mike. Everyone's being really nice, but that's my job to be the opposite. Is no,
Come on.
you said it's going to be really expensive. I don't think so. I'm just like internally an optimist, and I believe in the power of things getting cheaper, and so I don't know that it's going to be that expensive. I think people are going to run Kimi 2 models, or you'll be able to kick the background agents to stuff you're hosting or whatever. So I think that's one place I would challenge you.
I hope it gets that expensive too. So I mean, that's where we want it to go, right? Not everybody has the checkbook to plunk down, but I think access to these tools needs to get in as many people's hands as possible.
Yeah, agreed. Well, go ahead, please. No, you're all good.
I don't want to
Yes,
derail, but I heard this. I heard this on a podcast where somebody was saying it's kind of amazing. There's a lot of criticisms of the model houses and the prices and like these big deals and whatnot. But I don't know if they announced a new number yesterday, but ChatGPT has like 800 million users or something, or more. I don't know. And it's accessible in basically every language. And it can translate between every language. Like it's a lot of people have access to this, and it gets a lot more access to a lot more people with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, nice. It feels like numbers don't mean anything anymore, but 800 million is a lot of people, right? Like how long did it take Facebook to get to 1 billion users or whatever it is now, right? Like across all of its platforms.
When the movie came out, the movie came out, the marketing was like you don't make 500 million friends without some enemies or whatever it was. So 500 million, that was the big number when it 2012?
Yeah, that was so long ago. It was crazy.
Big number.
Well, cool. I want to just quickly sort of chat about one thing going on in the Build Crew universe. And so if you're enjoying this and you're feeling like this is fun, I'd love to chat with other people about AI agents and stuff. It's just nobody in my neighborhood cares, or nobody in my normal life. That's how I feel. I go talk to my neighbors and nobody cares about any of the stuff that I'm doing. So every day in the Build Crew community, we have a daily stand-up. So at 10:30 a.m. every day, we are in there. People are sharing. We've got shout out Andrew, who comes every single day and does an update on what he's working on. But it's really fun. And so that's sort of the point of Build Crew, is like there's a lot of us out here that are having fun playing with these tools, but we're terminally online behind our computers and we don't have other people to talk to. And so that's part of what we're trying to do here with Build Crew. So go to buildcrew.team. You get $100 in AMP credits if you want to try, but you don't have to be an AMP user to join. We just want anyone to come together. We want it to be the best community for agent builders. So just want to quickly shout out that and point out our daily stand-ups, because they're actually really fun. It's a cool way to chat with everybody. Mike, you've crushed it so far. Like I'm gonna vote for kicking Thorsten off. And I'm just
10
kidding,
out of
sorry.
10.
I promised I wasn't gonna make fun of Thorsten, and then here I am. So, but it's your turn. I would love to hear sort of what some tips you're working on, things you're doing. Sounds like maybe we'll be Elixir adjacent, but would love to hear your coding tip for the week.
Coding tip for the week. So when you're building, I am a huge fan of sitting down to think through. I mean, I get Thorsten, you're talking about specs. I go back and forth on specs. The AMP Oracle is really effective, and I will often defer to that. Hey, use the Oracle and just get going, versus, hey, if that doesn't work, I'll take a step back. I'll take a deep breath, write a spec. I'll review the spec, but it feels like it's a little bit slower. Now I have been, when I sit down to come up with a task, come up with a thread, I think through, how will I know how to prove this is correct, or what I want, the outcome that I want, beyond just your basic unit tests. And that can take the form of a lot of different things. It can be a script like Camden is talking about. It can be logs that shows the agent that it's performing as expected. And I'll think through that and treat that as a first-class citizen in the thread that I'm building. And again, it goes back to those different modes. When I start a thread, I try to write the thread and construct the thread to operate as long as possible. So maybe I'll write a spec, maybe I won't. Use the Oracle, figure out a plan, execute the plan with sub-agents. So this is actually my one beef with AMP. You should never be able to run a sub-agent in parallel, ever. That messes things up. Again, Thorsten,
I'm listening. I'm on your side.
This, right? What do you think?
You're saying you don't want to run them in parallel?
No.
Why not?
Most of the time I've tried, oftentimes the context gets mixed up with one another. I use sub-agents to sort of carve off a piece of work and execute it sequentially. So now all of my agents MD have always execute agents sequentially and build on the previous output. It can't, AMP doesn't bring the results of the sub-agent back into the main thread, just pops off to the next one. So it's kind of like a delegated to-do list, which is great, but rarely it works out. It's a foot gun.
There's no isolation.
Okay. So you use it for context isolation rather than okay, cool.
Which I'm on your side.
Right?
Like I'm
good reasons for this.
I think what I see in the wild, what people do with sub-agents is it's strange.
It's an easy one to get in trouble with. So I do have a thread I could show. And I'll first start off a little plug. I do a lot of open source work. You can check me on GitHub. I am building a Elixir agent framework. I know there's a lot of agent frameworks, but we're building if you understand the power of the Beam and what Elixir can do by operating on the Erlang virtual machine, come join us. That's all I'll say about that. But I'm on a side quest right now to build a LLM client in Elixir. And one of the things that I'm doing is I needed to be able to prove that this LLM client works against all the LLMs that I wanted to operate against, supporting, reasoning tokens, supporting usage. And so this is that learning that I expressed early on of I'm doing live fixture tests. So I'm hitting the LLM APIs, and I taught AMP how to fix itself through this cycle via some custom tooling that I wrote. These threads take.
Wait, can you bump the font size on this?
But this is while I was
Okay.
kicking off one of these hour-and-a-half long threads on Saturday, I get bored, right? This is the other problem we don't talk about. I get bored because I'll put all this intense work, kick something off, and then I just need to go twiddle my thumbs or go do something else. So I opted to see if this live API technique would work up against a project that I had. So I'm a big fan of fly.io.
Mike, can you make it yet bigger, please?
Yet bigger. All right.
Yeah. You see the white in my beard.
There we go. How's that?
Yeah, thank you. Un poco más. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I have a Elixir client that reaches out to the Fly API and spins up infrastructure. So this is starting and running servers in the cloud, something instinctually, right? I should not be doing this. With a live credit
That's a little terrifying.
Right? This is, they said years ago, you're never supposed to get in the car with a stranger. You never use your credit card online. You never take candy from anybody you don't know. And yet we get in an Uber, we buy stuff online, and we take candy from people all the time. This is the version of that for me. So I opted to write a spec and see if I could one-shot this. Took about 30 minutes, one-shotted the entire package. It was a couple thousand lines of code, but then I want to just, again, this is my sub-agent technique. So in this case, I did write a spec. I said, review the spec, fully implement it, use the Oracle, break it into sub-agents. Sub-agents should sequentially implement a step that builds on the previous step, and then off it went. So see, the new GPT-5 Oracle, really good. I like GPT-5 a lot.
There you go. There's
Yeah.
this.
Yes,
This
it
is
is.
recorded. Let's
So
go.
here we go. Phase 0. This was, again, starting from a fresh new project through a series of 8 phases, fully implemented.
That's crazy. This is wait. How do you prompt it that it reliably does like the sequential? Is this in your Agents MD
No,
or
this
is
was
it up there? Oh, break
I have
down
pretty
this back into
pretty
sequential.
dialed in Agents MD from my other projects and open source projects, which I could pull up and show you. But no, this was fresh. This was like nothing.
Would you be up for
Nice.
publishing that as a gist so that people can check it out?
Absolutely. I've
Not right
shared
now,
it.
obviously.
This is
but-
yeah, this thread is public and I can share it later.
Oh, I meant your
This
Agents
wasn't even the
MD.
interesting part. The part
really?
that I wanted to show is I wanted to see if it worked. So what did I do? I threw in an API key and I said, I want you, AMP, to build me a live integration test that uses my API key, that uses curl to introspect into Fly to make sure this all works. Because I want to see the infrastructure coming online. And the API, I've used it before, has some nuances because it takes a little bit of time. It's very fast, but it does take time for these machines to boot up, right? It's infrastructure. And so start by building one small test. This is the iterative exploratory part. So I want to call out the working style difference. I went from here's an entire project plan. This is me being project manager for what you saw up top. I know exactly what I want to do. I've designed it, I've architected it. And now we're going to go on an adventure because I don't know. I want you to figure this out. And it wrote out an entire integration case. And this is now getting into Elixir specifics. So the audience doesn't need to care about this as much. Built it all out and then ended up writing 6 live integration tests to fully test that it works and found several bugs, fixed them. And I spent time doing that while I was waiting.
Nice.
And I went from nothing to published repository live on the Elixir package manager, which is called Hex, in about an hour.
Wow.
That's sweet.
So that was one of my projects.
And in that hour, it booted up
Everything.
machines, tested against them, and tore them down.
Here you can see, here's the test image. That's a variable. CPU, 256 megabytes of memory, opens up 2 ports. And then I committed these tests so I can run them again. So here's the 6 tests. Create the app with a README, with a shell script for running them. So all I have to do is drop in the key and I can rerun them and off it goes. So it's an elevated style of thinking is the message if you're building with AMP to take away. I've gotten to the point I've used this stuff enough now that I always try to go up a level and think, how can I direct and guide the agent to self-correct itself? That's how you get the really long threads. And in code, that's easy. It's unique to every project. But if you can do that, you're off to the races. This is why really I end up using and spending a lot of money with AMP.
This is A, thanks for spending all your money with AMP. B, this is really gratifying to me because I always feel like I'm being lazy when I'm just like, here, you just do it. Right. And like, this is obviously the more elegant way of you just do it. But it's good to see that like, it's the right direction. But I do think more people should do this where you're just, I really like that sequential ordering. Yeah. And so if you could publish your Agents MD as a gist and we could share that in the Build Crew community, that would be awesome. Cause I think I really want like a drop down of, I'd like to be like, this didn't work. Okay. Let me use Thorsten's Agent MD and see if that'll work. You know what I mean? Or be able to like learn from other people's.
Yeah. I mean, you look up.
I think the queue, just to jump, the queue for what Mike is describing is if you find yourself copy and pasting stuff to the agent, then you should start to think like, how can I automate this? And it's this, like in this case, you would run the script and then get the output from whatever fly.io and say, oh, it didn't work. And then you paste it to the agent and then it goes and tries again. And then you try again. but instead you should think, how can I make the agent get this feedback about what it's doing? And we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago with like that I use Tmux for this in our CLI application because it can see the whole screen. And then in web, you can use Playwright and, TDD and whatnot. But yeah. What's that question?
Yeah, we had this seemed pretty relevant to what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Mike, do you want to go for it?
Sure.
This was your section.
I forget the name of the study, but this was recently done. I think the if the commenter wants to illuminate what they were kind of talking about, but every time you have one agent that's 95% accurate and you pass off, or either you have another agent correcting the first agent, the accuracy gets worse. And there are currently studies being done on this, and the name is escaping me. I think it starts with an M, for how long an agent can operate and run without human intervention based on these accuracy numbers. And it degrades faster than humans because, of course, they compare it against human work. And I think that's the message. What's the bar? What are we ultimately trying to compare this to?
Yeah.
We're measuring agents against human work. And as we do that, we have to define what human work is. This is my issue with AGI is coming. Well, most people who say AGI is coming never define what that looks like, because it's very difficult to define, and it has to be held up, mirrored against what human work looks like. And human work is notoriously difficult to define. Very, very difficult. There's no consistent definition of what work is.
Yeah, there was so yesterday, Graham, you mentioned this, the what's it called, Agent SDK from OpenAI came out, and I don't know if any of you have looked at it, but it's they have examples in there, and I don't want to make fun of examples because they are examples, right? But they have examples where this is an agent, and they define the concept of handoffs, which is you have sub-agents basically, or one agent can hand off the control to another agent based on when it thinks it should. And the examples they have is, you're a financial analyst or something, and here's a PDF, and you can hand it off to like the statistician, or something like 5 other things, or the PDF reader or something. And I was reading through the code, and I was kind of like, you're just multiplying like vague stuff. And if this I want to see this in a production system, like where you throw a PDF at like 5 connected agents, and then you hope to get a result out of. And
they know how to throw a great party.
I don't know.
Right? I think it also, you also like documentation goes out of step so quickly. There's an element of shooting where the puck is going, right? Like, this is what you can do with this stuff, giving people an opportunity to push in that direction. Because if you just say what's available right now, I don't think that's the right way to do it either.
Yeah, so I have to wrap us up. I have a thing that I
that's
teach.
My job. Yeah,
I'm doing your job, Graham.
Right, we're just jumping in
over.
But
see you next week, Mike.
The number one skill. So part of what I do a lot of open source. I have a full-time job, lead, and have the privilege of like pouring into another team of engineers using AMP, using Cursor, and teaching them these things. The number one skill that I teach them is not prompting. It's not how to use the agents, not advanced coding techniques. It's leadership. And I know this is maybe a little bit silly, but delegation, the mechanics of delegation that I've learned over my 25-year career, same exact thing when it comes to agents. So anything I can do to help my team level up with the basic skills of leadership, human-to-human interaction that's been around for thousands and thousands of years, all applies to this new world. And I think that's a bit of the missing piece. It all applies. And the better we get at that, the better builders we're going to be, the better agents we're going to guide and create, and the better software we're going to make. And to me, that's my bottom line. Leadership is the number one skill to learn right now, because we're going to end up delegating to agents all day long.
Thank you for leading this call, Mike.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on, Graham.
No, this is great. I think I really appreciate it. I knew you were going to be a great guest. And I think that was a really great point to sum this up on. But Camden and Thorsten, thank you so much. Mike, we're gonna wrap up. For anybody who wants to sort of be in a conversation like this, we host the Build Crew what do you call it, stand up every day at 10:30 p.m. So I'll be on there in 30 minutes if you want to join now and get in the Discord. Mike, maybe you'll join and give a little post show cameo.
I'm in there,
if you've got some time.
Happy to.
But I just want to give you the sort of last thing here is like, where can people find you? What do you want people to direct you?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on X, at Mike Hostetler. You know, find me there, say hello, follow my projects. Let me see what you're doing. I'd love to hear and just hear the stories of how people are using this stuff. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for joining. See you all next week. Oracle and